In 2000, I was a GP and local hospice doctor, and sadly I was seeing a lot of cases of the fatal asbestos cancer, mesothelioma. What I wasn't prepared for was the amount of severe suffering, both physical and mental, that these patients and their relatives experienced. I decided to research it and looked into what people went through, what their relatives went through, and what their healthcare professionals, their doctors and nurses, went through. And it became very clear very early on that there was a lot of unmet needs for this group of people. So with colleagues from the hospice, we had 2 open public meetings in Barrow, and we asked people, what are your concerns about asbestos diseases, and what sort of measures would you like us to take to help you and your families deal with this particular problem? Because Barrow has the worst incidence of asbestos-related diseases, particularly mesothelioma, in men in England. We have 4 or 5 times the expected incidence. The results from the public meetings were very clear. People wanted 5 things. First of all, they wanted access to the best possible healthcare, and they wanted it locally if possible, or alternatively, they wanted easy access and rapid access to specialist centres. They wanted information. Firstly, information about the disease and what it meant, about any clinical trials that might be going on, the research that was being conducted, and where to get the best sort of support. They wanted information about state benefits, because these are complicated, as asbestos is an industrial disease. They wanted the best possible legal advice concerning claims for civil compensation against employers who'd been negligent in exposing them to asbestos. They wanted healthcare professionals to be educated about asbestos diseases, and lastly, they wanted the best possible support for their families, including support in bereavement. This gave us the mandate to set up a support group, originally in 2005 called C.A.R.D.S for Barrow Asbestos-Related Disease Support. But now we realise that the problems extend beyond Barrow, and particularly as the diseases are diminishing in Barrow but increasing elsewhere, we've now extended our support group to cover the whole of Cumbria and North Lancashire, and it is now known as C.A.R.D.S for Cumbria Asbestos-Related Disease Support. We intend to hold meetings that will be open to the public in the north of Cumbria and in North Lancashire in the next 12 months, and we will be developing a website. This film is made in collaboration with media students at Furness College, which you can see behind me, new building, and we're really grateful for their support. And now I'd like you to listen to the stories from these 4 people from Barrow who have generously given their time to produce this film. Thank you.
I'm Vera Rigby, and I just want everyone to know about the dangers of asbestos. Asbestos is Britain's biggest workplace killer, and the World Health Organisation estimate that more than 100,000 people die each year of asbestos-related diseases. Just trivial, a casual exposure can cause mesothelioma. Exposure to asbestos is still occurring due to lack of knowledge and information. Asbestos was banned in the UK in 1999, but this doesn't mean that it's no longer a threat. It was widely used prior to 1999, meaning that asbestos is still in the schools, the workplace and the home. Hundreds of thousands of buildings still contain asbestos. My much loved husband, dad and granddad died at the age of 62 from mesothelioma. We received the diagnosis of mesothelioma on our granddaughter's first birthday, a granddaughter he would never see grow up. Barry began his working life as an apprentice electrician, but he continued to study and in his early 30s he left industry and started a career in further education. But unknown to us, the damage had already been done. He'd been exposed to asbestos. Barry's lecturing career brought him here to Furness College, where he was a senior lecturer. He was also a lecturer for the Institute of Electrical Engineers. His students were electricians and apprentice electricians, but no one had ever informed Barry or instructed him on the dangers of asbestos. So he wasn't able to teach the dangers to his students. When Barry showed the first signs that something was wrong with his health, he was asked, "Have you ever worked with asbestos?" And we didn't know why this was being asked. We had no knowledge of the dangers of asbestos. Yet the dangers were known before Barry was even born, but covered up by those profiteering from its use. No exposure to asbestos is right. No kind of asbestos is safe. And exposure to asbestos can and must be prevented.
Yesterday I heard a news report on the radio about the youngest person to climb Mount Everest. I think she was a 19-year-old girl. She probably used something like this, my trusty oxygen bottle. Unfortunately, I need this to climb up the stairs to bed. I contracted asbestosis 40 odd years ago, and it was the biggest single non-event of my life that has turned into something that has completely taken over my life. Asbestosis can be caught from one or two absolutely minute fibres in building materials, basically. It is a disease that is immensely difficult to diagnose. It's progressive, it's irreversible, it's untreatable, or almost untreatable. This is the biggest help. And I didn't know about it. I did not know that I'd caught it. I did not know that I was in a situation where I could catch it. And that was 40 odd years ago. Things are very much different now. Anybody who is working with in any sort of capacity in building, construction, maintenance should be aware that every unknown material that he looks at and has to work on may contain asbestos. And if he does not take relevant precautions, he will end up like me.
My name's Julie. I lost my mum and my best friend to mesothelioma in 2010. Mum was diagnosed at Furness General, and it was a really, how can I say, hard way to learn that she had mesothelioma. They didn't, they weren't very compassionate the way they told my mum, so of course we both left there absolutely terrified. And when I said to them, what are we talking time-wise, they said days, weeks, months, at the most 2 years. So we left there feeling absolutely devastated. We were given a leaflet regarding C.A.R.D.S in Barrow, and after much talking to my mum, because she was so frightened. She finally agreed to attend C.A.R.D.S with me, and from the moment we stepped in there, we were given hope, support, medical help. We were also supported by the hospice at Ulverston, who were always on the end of a telephone for us to help with any problems we had. I found C.A.R.D.S a great support group for not only the patients but the families. You could always talk to somebody regarding things you were worrying about at home, things that you couldn't maybe talk to with your family or doctors. It was once a month that was well worth going to see. We had medical advice, support, friends, and the hospice as well made Mum feel very safe. Of course, when you hear the hospice, you panic and you think, don't want to be in there. But they were fabulous. They put a big blanket round her and us. They helped us as well. Mum, they think, well, the main diagnosis for Mum's disease was through washing my father's overalls when he worked as a boilerman. I can remember her shaking all his overalls when he used to come in from work and putting them in the washing machine, and this is how they say she got the disease. And Mum was a fighter. She beat breast cancer, bowel cancer. She was amazing. She was the kind of lady that a glass was always half full, it was never half empty, and she was our hero, really. She was full of fun. She didn't deserve something like this. But as I say, we got a lot of support. What more can I say about C.A.R.D.S, really? It's changing to C.A.R.D.S in the next month. I'd like everybody to be aware of the dangers of asbestos. People have said to me, even just recently, I found some asbestos sheeting on some allotments near to where we live, and after contacting councillors and environmental agency, you get the same answer: oh, it's not the harmful asbestos. I don't think there's any asbestos that's not harmful. So that's why really I like to be involved with C.A.R.D.S to try and make people aware of what dangers there are in asbestos, and try and help people that are going through what I went through. If I can talk to somebody and give them a little bit of advice, a little bit of support, a little bit of hope, well, to me that's what it's all about. I have a photograph of my mum. She was a very sprightly 73-year-old. I don't know if you can see her on there. She was amazing. My best friend.
My name is Stuart Anderson and I'm 75 years old. I worked in Vickers as an apprentice fitter, and when I was 19 I was working on the dockside in the boats where they're using asbestos. I didn't think anything of it because everybody was doing it and weren't told any of the dangers that ensued from it. Anyway, nothing at all. I had no illnesses whatsoever till I got to about 60, and I began to think I had bronchitis. I went to the doctors and had 5 lots of antibiotics, and it didn't cure it at all. Then they sent me for an x-ray. I went for the x-ray on the Tuesday, and on the Thursday morning I got a phone call. Come to the hospital, there's a bed for you. So I went in and they did a pleural tap and pleural biopsy and said, you can go home now. I said, what's the matter? Well, nothing untoward, we're going to get a second opinion. So I said, all right. So they sent me to Blackpool. They did the same thing, a biopsy and a tap. I said, what was the matter? He said, it'll take us 10 days to find out. Go to your doctor in 10 days. So I went. I sat down. He said, there's nothing we can do. You've got mesothelioma. You had a pleurodesis, so we can't operate. Your lungs stuck to your rib cage. He said, we can give you radiotherapy and chemotherapy. So I said, well, when can I start? As soon as possible. So 3 days later, I had to go to Blackpool and have a dose of radiotherapy. And I went the following day, and the day after that for the 3. And then 10 days later, I started on the chemotherapy, which in itself is an experience you don't want to try. Went into the oncology department and sat down for 8 hours while they pumped poison into my veins. It wasn't so bad the first day, I couldn't sleep. And for the week afterwards, I couldn't stay awake. I was sleeping all the time. I was violently sick. I was just getting over it. I had to go and get another dose. I had to 5 lots. And I go and see the oncologist every 3 months. Until the end they said, 6 months, you're clear. But when Al-Jabiri told me that I had mesothelioma, all sorts of things through my mind. Look, I was looking at a blank abyss where nothing's going to happen. It's not going to see my children grow up, well, my grandchildren grow up, or anything at all. It really was depressing. I used to cry at the drop of a hat. For another reason, I was feeling sorry for myself. So then I decided I would stop being sorry for myself and start looking at life happily. Make a joke of everything I could, because the disease works on bad vibrations. So I decided I was going to have good vibrations. And I got to get pains in my chest. And sorry about that. I heard that you could defeat it with willpower, which I did. I'd seen an X-ray of where it was, and it was just up here. So I put my hand on it like that, and in this hand I pretended I had a cotton wool ball. I pressed my hand on there, and on there I said, "Die, you devil." So I'm squeezing it like this. And after 8 weeks, it went, and I've had no problems whatever. I'm now 6 years, just over 6 years, and I'm in remission, so they tell me.